Hello and welcome to the North Bank podcast, where, as ever, I'm joined by Stef and Chris. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello.
Hello.
How are we this Thursday evening as we're recording? How's it going?
All good.
Yes, all good.
Is it all good?
Well,
I thought this podcast was going to be a bleak and miserable one until...
No injuries to worry about. Everything's fine.
Yeah, easy run of fixtures coming up.
Yeah.
This is the point. I was thinking of all the stuff besides Arsenal.
Oh,
that's all good.
Okay, that's good. Well, that's important. That's more important, actually. So good. I did think that this podcast was going to be one of the more negative ones until the news broke today that Arteta has signed on till 2027. I don't think there was ever any doubt that he was going to sign. Certainly the mood music coming from the club was everyone's relaxed and calm, but the timing's quite interesting. I wonder, did they hold it back for maybe an opportune moment where we were facing down a bit of, not negative press, but a potentially tricky moment? Or am I being a little bit cynical there?
Well, maybe they did plan it regardless of the recent bad luck. You know, maybe they'd said after the international break is a good point and before the Spurs game, regardless of injuries.
Because I think it serves as a bit of a fillip to the club because, I mean, you know, this podcast, we are pretty much exclusively looking forward to, and I use the term looking forwards in a not that sense necessarily, in the fact that it hasn't happened yet, and so it is in the future. So we are looking forward to it, because I am not looking forward to it in an enjoyment sense or an anticipatory sense. But the Spurs game on Sunday. But before we get into that, obviously we've had 2 rounds of international matches after 3 games in the season, and you know, Arsenal Twitter's been up in arms, toing and froing, flip-flopping from one viewpoint to another, because obviously Ødegaard picked up an injury playing for Norway during the week. I've scoured the internet. I still can't find anything official, and that's the same for Calafiori as well. I've no idea whether he's available or not. Ødegaard, I mean, if we're to go by what the Norwegian doctor said, he'll be out for 3 weeks. And if he comes back after 3 weeks, that'll be quite fortunate. There's no break as such to his ankle. But I guess international call-ups versus club priorities, I'd rather none of our players went to play for their countries. I'd rather they all pulled a Ben White on their countries and stayed in London Colney. I also think, we need to be a little bit more cute about how when we release our players. Phil Foden was ill and didn't go and so on. But I think that conveniently misses out the key component, and that's what the player wants. Ødegaard captains his country. So...
My thing is, it's look, players are always going to want to represent their country. That's no problem. My issue is the timing of this particular international break. It just seems ridiculous. 3 games into a season to then suddenly stop for international fixtures, considering teams are yet to perhaps hit full speed. And then it just interrupts. And now, I mean, we're feeling probably most sore because of the loss of Ødegaard, but it could be true of any team that loses, a big player. It's just ridiculous to have it at this time. I can't stand
So the timing rather than...
Yeah. Look, a player's always going to want to play for his country, and yes, some clubs are a bit cuter in how they manage which players go and which ones don't. But ultimately, I just after 3 games of a season,
it's crap.
Yeah, it's rubbish.
It is. Having said that, Man City did send their only fit striker. Why wasn't it him on the receiving end of an ankle knock, but not
I heard,
Ødegaard?
Obviously, the stats, the former Norwich City loanee, Harry Kane, is now up to 68 goals in 100 games for England. And then In contrast, it was mentioned that Haaland's on something like 32 goals in 35 games for Norway.
for a less proficient team as well.
Yeah. So this guy is...
Yeah, but you can't compare. There's that stat about Premier League hat-tricks. You know, I haven't got it in front of me, but he's like 4th or 5th in Premier League in a fraction of the games it took the likes of Shearer and Henry to get to their tallies, which were impressive in themselves. He's breaking all kind of molds and expectations and measurements, and he's just like the sooner he buggers off to Real Madrid, the better, or Barcelona.
Let's hope it's a transfer record that's broken to buy him to go somewhere else. Or, even better, that it's the 115 charges court case somehow comes to fruition, and then he can break all the records in League Two.
Well, on that, it starts on Monday.
Yes.
And they expect a decision after appeals by the end of the season. So the finality will be known by the end of this season. It'll be just sod's law that it's the first season in 3 that we finish 3rd.
Don't.
Which I'm going to mention this again, which just makes the Brighton red card decision even worse, because it's those 2 points now. Oh, anyway.
And Rice being available for the next game.
Yeah. Just a point on the Ødegaard thing. Clubs do receive compensation from countries for players injured whilst playing for them. I know some people were saying, there's no...
bottle of wine?
No, it's not. It's actually, I looked it up. It's up to £7.5 million a year if they're out for that long. It's 20k, works out at 20k a day. For obviously a high-level player like Ødegaard and his contract. So, not that I give a monkeys about the compensation. I just want my player playing.
What does it mean ultimately? Really?
Yeah, so what?
Yeah, indeed. So what, indeed. Everybody else came back from the international break then injury-free, I guess. I haven't heard anything. Calafiori, I've no idea whether he's available for Sunday or not. I don't know. He might be. So anyway, Sunday. Nice, easy team selection for us. I'm going to make 2 predictions. Number 1, that the 3 of us will pick 3 different teams. And my second prediction, that none of those teams we predict will be the actual starting 11 on Sunday. I don't know how you want to start this. Can we say that the back 5 are going to... No, we can't even say that necessarily. Because Chris,
do you want to talk about the context of the teams and what we're going into, or anything?
Well, we're
that?
missing our first choice. Well, we think we're missing our first choice midfield 3, and that would be Rice, Ødegaard, and Merino. Now, we knew Merino was out with his fractured shoulder, and we knew Rice was suspended. I'm still assuming Ødegaard is out. I've heard nothing to the contrary, so we're missing our first choice midfield 3. I've written down 17 different permutations for the front 6 or the midfield 3 and the forward 3. I have settled on a starting 11, but I've got no confidence in it. Obviously, we're playing at White Hart Lane. It's interesting because I've spoken to a few Spurs fans this week since the Ødegaard injury, and a really funny thing has started to happen. They're now nervous. They're worried about the game, whereas before they were just up for it because we were favourites. If we have our strongest starting 11, we should come out on top in that game. I know you've got to legislate for the North London derby aspect of it, but now that we're missing our first choice, they're in a kind of lose-lose position. They beat us. They're now expected to beat us. They are now the favourites going into the game. I think so. I think we take.
Bookies.
They're not sure about Solanke or Van der Ven.
Yeah, no. So I've got Van der Ven was almost going to make it for the game that before the international break. So Postecoglou, I think I've written him down as a minor doubt. The 2 major doubts are Solanke and Bissouma. Bissouma went off for his country during the week on 60-something minutes after having taken a knock. So whether he's a major doubt, as is Solanke. Solanke's probably likely to be on the bench, possibly. But I just think that the psychology of the game has changed because of the injuries, Steph.
So, well, and since the Odegaard injury happened, I've been through the 7 stages of grief that occur with that. And when I was in the anger phase, I was messaging one of my best pals, who is a Spurs fan, but I don't hold it against him, and said, "Oh, your midfield is just going to run all over our midfield because Rice is banned and Odegaard's injured now and blah, blah, blah." And I went on this huge rant, and he just messaged back. He said, "Steph, it's Spurs." So actually, that there's also that kind of doubt in their mind about, what they're actually capable of. And then I realised, reading around the game and this, that and the other, apparently there's been some grumblings, even carried over from the end of last season, where Spurs' form at the end of the season really wasn't that great. And like you say, they've had a bit of a hit and miss start to the season. The draw at Leicester, the defeat to Newcastle, and then... But
battered Everton.
Everyone's sort of saying, but
shooting fish in a barrel.
Everton, exactly. And so it's not all rosy. And then, like you say, actually, this has kind of changed the psychology. I still think we are favourites because in another phase of my grief following the Odegaard injury, I did have to sort of stop myself and go, okay. It is obviously going to affect our team. The captain's not there, the one-man press machine at the front, and then Declan Rice, the great signing that he's been. But it's still last season's best defence, which might arguably be even better now that Timber's been added to it. And so there's still a very, very, very good Arsenal team that is going to take the pitch in whatever format it takes. It's just going to feel very different because Odegaard has been pretty solidly evident and present for the most of the time, and Rice was pretty much ever present the whole of last season. So yeah, it will feel different, but that defence is great.
Can I just say that neither of those two players have started the season particularly well either?
That's the other thing, isn't it? You were the first to sort of point it out that Rice perhaps wasn't, at full speed, hangover from the Euros or whatever it might be. And so, yeah, maybe it will show the options that we've got and reveal a certain amount of depth that we may or may not have. Marino's, yes, disappointing that he can't be there. And of course, there is one signing, assuming Calafiori's not going to make it either, that could make a start. So yeah, there's as I like to say, there's so much narrative everywhere you look. It's just unbelievable.
During the day, I went looking for a quiz relevant to this game, and the question I was looking for was name previous Arsenal players who've made their Premier League debut at Spurs. I couldn't find any answers. So I don't know whether...
Because I read there was one. But, there was one person to make their debut in a North London derby, and the last one was a Spurs player in about 1997 or something like that. Yeah,
Wasn't it Rose made his debut in the North London and scored that absolute screamer into the top corner?
Oh, yeah, maybe that was it then. Maybe it was 2007 or something, I don't know.
So actually, I have got a quiz question. I'm just going to leave it with you, and it is relevant to the game because you can think about it and we'll come back to it at the end. Please remind me to do that, okay. Actually. I want you to name, in the Premier League era, Arsenal's top 4 goal scorers at White Hart Lane. In the Premier League era, I'll give you at Spurs. I'll give you the tallies, and the reason I've picked 4 is because everybody else is on 1. So the top 4 are 5, 4, 3, 3. So they're the number of goals scored at White Hart Lane in the Premier League era. Okay, so I'll leave that with you, and you can pontificate over that over the next few moments. So Chris. As Steph has said, rather than focus on who's not going to play, we should focus on who is available. Does that calm your nerves?
Yes, because I look at who is available and there are players that you wouldn't be afraid to put into your starting 11. It's not like, I don't believe for a second he's going to blood anyone. So if we're thinking Nwaneri, I think dream on, because he's not going to start.
How good would that be, though? Come on.
Well, it would be good if he started and played a blinder and scored the winner and all the rest of it. But I think it's too high a risk to start him, as good as he is.
Well, talk us through your team then.
Okay. Raya in goal. White, Saliba, Gabriel, Timber.
Can I just, Steph, do you agree with that so far?
Look, I've got two lineups.
Oh.
And look, the one I'm going to go with, that back five.
Yeah. Okay. So that's, I was going to say, the reason I stopped you there is because that's my back five. And I think, and herein the similarities end, I think.
We'll see.
Well, I should probably preface the whole thing by saying I do think Arteta will be leaning into the tried and tested more because of the obvious disruption we've had. I don't think he's going to tinker too much. I think he's going to try and stick with who he knows and what he knows in terms of what he's used before and what works, and rather than jazz it too much. So hence the same back five. And Calafiori, whether he's fit or not, he's not, again, throwing him in a game of this magnitude to start, even if he's fit. Not for me.
Can I say one of my students put forward a midfield three, and he had Calafiori playing at left back, and he had Timber in midfield, and I thought that was an interesting curveball. But I'm not sure that Calafiori's fit. I don't think he'd start Zinchenko there. No. That's why ultimately I've gone with Timber at left back.
Well, I had actually thought of that Timber in midfield when Ødegaard was fit, because I felt if they did go for a three, like with Partey as the single pivot, that Timber is, as we know, he's press resistant. He's great at turning and pulling away, running with it. May not be quite as good at the distribution yet, but that was my initial thinking. But all that went out the window. When Ødegaard went, I just thought he's got to go with a double pivot in midfield. So that's why I've got a midfield two holding of Partey, not Rob Holding, of Partey and Jorginho in that sort of box midfield that we've done before, whereby you have Havertz and Trossard in front of them kind of thing, but Havertz definitely will be dropping in when we're out of possession, and then Martinelli and Saka either side. So it kind of looks on paper.
Yeah. So who's your number 9?
It's a false 9 really with Trossard.
Right, so you think Trossard will play further forward than Havertz?
We're out of possession and depending on game state and whatever, but I think Havertz will be doing a lot of that. I mean, when we're looking for an outlet, Martinelli, obviously, to beat their high line, but also when we're lumping it along from the more kind of set-piece kind of scenarios, Havertz will be obviously a target man. So I just feel like that is a safer... And we know that Saka and Martinelli will bomb back to support when we're out of possession. So you're kind of looking more 4-4-2 or even 4-5-1 out of possession.
Steph?
Well, I know you predicted that we would all have different teams, but I've got exactly the same team as Chris, with almost the identical setup. The box midfield thing, fine. The double pivot, Jorginho and Partey. I think that's in terms of there'll be shapes in possession, there'll be shapes out of possession. But again, that's my Arteta prediction lineup. That's the Arteta. I think he will be sensible. I don't think he's going to play a huge amount of risk. He has such a defined way of wanting to do things that effectively Jorginho comes in for Ødegaard, Havertz kind of moves back and replaces Rice, and Trossard becomes a false 9 instead of a sort of target man for Havertz. That will be the noticeable difference in our style of play, in that we may look to counter a bit quicker. Martinelli, Saka on one side. You think of Saka's goal last season when Havertz had the ball fairly deep in our half and just sprayed it to an on-running Saka who jinked and moved around and then slotted home. It was one of my favourite goals of the season. And I think that's the way it'll go. That's the sensible Arteta approach. I have got
a bonkers version.
Galaxy brain one. I mean, you say bonkers. It's not really bonkers because we've already touched on one or two of the switches. Only because I do wonder, with the way that he's started this season, Arteta may want to keep Havertz in that number 9 role because he has started so well. However, I think what will override any need for that is he will want Havertz's size, presence, pressing, tackling, even just general feistiness in midfield. Because if you put Trossard in that position, a bit deeper, left 8, whatever you want to call it, he doesn't have the same presence. Great technical ability, we know that. Okay, he's a silky player, love that. But this is Spurs. This is a team that are going to play high up the pitch. They're going to be aggressive, and Havertz will resist that, I think, a little bit more than Trossard. So my sort of galaxy brain team is a midfield 3 of Nwaneri. If he wants a direct replacement for Odegaard, Partey, and then Timber with Zinchenko at left back, and then a front 3, Saka, Havertz, Martinelli. I can't see it. But
no, I mean,
the first one is the one I'm going with. He's gonna be cautious, I think.
The romantic notion of Nwaneri starting the game, I think, I think it would buy Arteta an out if we lost the game. It would be fine.
What blame the kid,
the player.
Yeah. Just chuck him under the bus.
But we wouldn't lose the game because he didn't perform to his potential. But you just look at the little cameos he's had so far. All the other players look to him. He's got the confidence. He's got that arrogance of youth. I don't think he'll start. I haven't got him in my starting 11, but I really would love, if I see him in the starting 11, I'm all for that as well. I will be like, yeah, okay, come on. This would be unexpected. Postecoglou wouldn't be expecting him to do that. So whether Postecoglou pays any attention to how the opposition team set out, I don't know, because the Spurs fans are like constantly bemoaning that. So,
yeah.
Well, there's another thing that goes in our favour, isn't it? Is that we don't know what formation as fans. So Spurs certainly don't know what we're going to turn up with on Sunday.
Okay, my team.
Mm-hmm.
I've gone for the back 5 as you guys have done so. I've gone for Partey and Jorginho in the double pivot. Jorginho's an interesting one because he started 10 games last season in the Premier League. We won 7, drew 2, and lost 1. He also started both games against Man City. We didn't concede a goal in either game, and he started the home game against Liverpool, which we won 3-1. So I think it's an absolute shoe-in. He'll play alongside Partey, and I think the two, I wouldn't trust either one of them on their own, but the two of them together, Partey's got a little bit more pace than Jorginho, but both are far slower across the ground than Declan Rice. Further forward, then, you alluded to it. I really don't want to see him move Havertz from his most effective position. So I want to see Havertz as the number 9. Interestingly, I have gone for Trossard as the left 8 as a consequence of that. Because it would, like you, Chris, you switch them round to how I've got them. I just think with Rice and Odegaard out, to then remove Havertz as well, it's too much disruption. And I think Havertz has started the season so well, and he scored there last season, did he not? Am I right? He scored there last season, didn't he?
Oh yeah,
header, wasn't it, from Rice corner?
Yeah. So,
but he will go forward regardless. When we're in possession,
I think he'll be. He'll play
be a menace.
He'll play the position he played. He started this season with. That's what I think. I did toy with the idea of putting Saka into the left 8. I think he could perform there, but again, similar for the same reason. Havertz. I don't want Havertz away from the number 9. I don't want Saka away from the position he's one of the best in the world. I think he's most effective there, and maybe more effective with Havertz as the pivot up, as the target up front. And I've gone for Sterling on the left because of, you said it, Steph, Spurs' insistence on a high line. Martinelli, but Martinelli didn't take advantage of that before, from memory. Sterling will know exactly how to play against that. And is Sterling more clinical?
Yeah, it's hard to argue, especially I say at the minute, Sterling's form for Chelsea. I was going to say, actually, because being there last season, obviously we raced into that 3-0 lead in the first half, and it was an absolute carnival in the away end. But the second half was a bit nervy. They got a goal back, and for a brief moment, it did look a little bit like we'd lost our heads somewhat. And one of the things that Arteta did to try and release some of that pressure was bring Martinelli on, because Spurs were pushing so high that effectively he was brought on as the runner for long balls over the top. But Van de Ven gave Martinelli no change. It was the moment I sort of stood up and went, okay, Van de Ven, he's a bit of a serious player. And so, yeah, it's hard to argue that. And I did toy with Sterling.
I think if Ødegaard wasn't out, I don't think Sterling would have started the game. I just think
he'll definitely be on the bench.
I'm committing to it. Sterling to start.
Okay.
So Sterling, Havertz and Saka across the front three, Trossard, Jorginho and Partey forming some kind of three in the middle. And a very solid back line. I mean, okay, so linking that, I mean, it's a very solid team with the double pivot in midfield, two more defensive-minded players in midfield. Chris, what score have you gone for?
You're going to hate me. 2-2. We're waiting for you, Steph.
Are you? Oh, you're right. Okay. Well, it's interesting to say that, because I was going to mention earlier about the psychology of the game. When I was in that phase of looking at the team going, no, we've still got our brilliant defence that are in there. And yet last season it was 2-2 at home and it was 3-2 away. And this is one of the fixtures in the Premier League that sees the most goals, the fewest amount of 0-0s, the fewest amount of draws sort of generally over the period of time. And so I've gone 2-2 as well. There'll just be goals. It'll just be silly, and I'm going to have a heart attack.
Yeah, I hope I'm wrong, but yeah.
I think it'll be... It depends on how Arteta approaches it. Because of missing Rice and Ødegaard, I'm inclined to think that he'll be more defensive-minded. He'll be more cautious. Maybe treat it more like a City game in that sense. So I've actually gone for 1-1. I think it'll be a draw as well, but 1-1. But I don't know. Like you said, Steph, we should back.
I don't think we have a choice in terms of being more defensive, to be honest, because like you said earlier, we don't have a Rice who can get back in those transitions, and that's why I think the double pivot is necessary.
But also Martinelli... I've gone for Sterling. How defensive is Sterling compared to Martinelli? We know Martinelli will be chasing back all the time. So I've picked Sterling, but
Sterling was doing that for City under Pep and Arteta. I don't think that you will find him wanting for that.
And then I suppose it's a question of Sterling's fitness levels. You're not going to get more than an hour out of him, really.
Yeah, no, he's on the bench for me.
The other thing is Sterling, if he scores at the brand spanking new Tottenham Stadium, he will be the third player to score against Spurs at all three of their grounds. Here's a quiz. Who are the other two? So obviously they had that spell at Wembley while the new stadium's being built, and then White Hart Lane before that.
No idea.
Vardy and Mitrovic.
Wouldn't have gone to those two straight away.
I read that on the BBC earlier. It's good, isn't it? Look, Sterling's got a good record against Spurs, and that period when he worked under Arteta at City can't be overlooked. And he's so experienced. He's 29. He's played a bag full of times for England and scored loads of goals, won things with City. As much as it's a loan, and yes, the whole thing at Chelsea was a bit weird, but Chelsea is weird. He could bring some interesting stuff. I mean, the narrative of him scoring, because we're focused on all the players that are out, and then here's the player that we've brought in that's fit and ready to go, who makes the difference. I'd absolutely love to see it.
it's certainly a lot more reassuring with him in our squad, looking at the team makeup and the bench as well. Even with Ødegaard and Rice out, we've got a little bit more danger off the bench. If he
Nwaneri will be on the bench as an option, and if he comes on as a sub, then that's fine. Jesus should be on the bench.
That's the other one. Couldn't. Yeah, it was. I couldn't find anything definitive on him either.
No, but he should be on the bench.
Charles Watts said that he spoke to someone at the start of the week, and that Arsenal hadn't ruled him out and expected at that point for some involvement in the game. So that's definitely a bench role, isn't it?
Yeah.
And he's a great player to take off the bench. Kind of an author of chaos creator of chaos on the pitch. It'd be if we're needing a goal to unlock a Spurs defence, then he's a good option off the bench. I mean, him and Sterling on the bench should be quite.
And Calafiori as well. If we're looking for something different,
if he's fit.
I can't see him being on the bench.
Really?
Yeah. The noise around this injury has been weird, and. Yeah, I just don't think he'll play against Atalanta in the week if he's ready to play anytime soon.
That would be a shame because I think he could bring a lot to a game like this certainly as a impact sub.
Well, listening to I think it was James Horncastle for The Athletic talk about the match against France that Italy played, he was absolutely raving about Calafiori. Because he said the way he interprets his role as a fullback, in inverted commas, because essentially he's not really doing that. He's doing all sorts of different things. I can't wait to see him get up to speed.
Well, we got a glimpse against Brighton when we were down to 10 and he had a confidence and a swagger about him. And you think...
Strength and skill.
Yeah, and beauty.
All right, calm down, Chris.
It's worth pointing out, by the way, Sparky, friend of the pod, said to me earlier, I think it's Gunnerblog who called, Spurs have got that chicken on a basketball sat on the top of their ground. Well, it's affectionately known as the toilet duck.
Hey.
Oh,
There you go.
Are we done talking about Spurs, the Spurs game even? I haven't looked at their team. I don't even know who they're going to start in midfield. I haven't got a clue.
Who cares?
Yeah, exactly.
Just do our thing.
Arsenal women have their Champions League final qualifier against a Swedish team, Häcken, I think, home and away. The first leg is before they kick off the Premier League season. I think it's the next Wednesday. And two-legged affair. Win through that, and they're in the group stages. So good luck. Good luck there. I've got my quiz question.
Oh, yeah.
Arsenal's top four goal scorers at White Hart Lane in the Premier League era.
Adebayor
is number 3 with 3.
Saka must be on the list because he scored in the last 2.
Perez is the top scorer in the...
I forgot about Perez.
He's got 5. Saka is not there. Why is Saka not there if he got 2 in the last one? Because every other player had 1. Saka's down as 1.
I'm thinking. So what I read, I've misremembered that. So basically, he scored in both games last time, home and away, and will be on course to score in a record equaling 3rd North London derby in a row, or something. That was what I read. Sorry.
So no. So Perez is on 5. He's the highest one. Adebayor on 3. So you're missing someone who scored 4 and someone who scored 3.
RVP?
No, much to my huge relief, he is not. Although I wouldn't have done the quiz had he been on it.
What about Fabregas?
Nope.
Walcott?
Nope.
What?
Henry? No.
What?
No. I know
Ian Wright?
No.
Jesus Christ.
Not him either.
Rosicky?
Nope.
I'm just naming people who I know have scored.
Okay, let me... both midfielders, actually.
Of what era?
Vieira.
Yes, Vieira's got 4.
4?
And the other one is the one I didn't get.
God, I love Vieira.
Yeah.
4 goals away at Spurs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to go watch those in a minute.
This other player scored the weirdest goal I've ever seen. the way he made a connection with it. It was in a European game away from home. He had I don't know how he physically manipulated his body.
Ramsey?
Yeah, Ramsey, yeah.
Are you on about the one against Galatasaray?
Yeah.
What a volley that was.
It's just ridiculous.
It's just amazing.
Like how he hit it, I had no idea.
To me,
yeah, Ramsey's on 3.
That is a textbook. You must have heard of the phrase, a thunder bastard. Like, to me, that Ramsey one is what's in the dictionary next to that definition. It's amazing.
I'd never heard that.
Have you not?
No.
Oh, that's a way of describing, a really well-hit volley that's got real venom to it as well. A thunder bastard.
A thunderous shot or a thunderbolt, but not. Yeah. I don't swear.
Oh, yeah. I think we might go back a couple of episodes following a certain referee performance when it all got a little bit spicy.
No need.
The air turned blue.
Okay, well done. You got there in the end with my quiz. Well, I'm out. Anything else to...
Just to Steph, who's going to the game, really, and eat a lucky kebab on the way, do everything you can,
Spurs away is always a difficult one because
it's a bastard to get to, that's for sure.
Well, it's like walking, it's as long as the journey to Mordor in Lord of the Rings. You get off at the Seven Sisters and you think, well, it's only like, what would be a couple of stops. It's miles and miles and miles and miles.
It's a proper bus ride.
And to go over on the overground through Northumberland Park and all that, like you're with all the Spurs fans, it's bad enough going down the high road to Tottenham anyway. And so basically everyone kind of congregates the 12 pins at Finsbury Park.
So do you get a coach to the away? Do you get a coach to the away game or do you drive?
To usual away games, there might be a minibus or something on offer, but with this, a few of us will just drive down in a car and tube it in because it's all a bit different. But we also avoid, there's the usual Ashburton Army lot who follow the police cordon from thing, and all that does is just paint a target on your back for like people's ire and gesticulation.
Bricks and bottles and
beer. I'll be zipping up my coat and just looking down, pretending, yeah, all right, mate, yeah.
I don't like football.
Don't like football. I'm just out shopping. Yeah. It's an early game as well. So I'm like, I'm just having a coffee. Yeah, don't worry.
And we're going to record on the night.
Yeah, we're going to try and do a little bit of a live stream reaction to it.
Oh dear.
We'll have to come up with a name for like Reactopod or something, like some kind of...
But not that.
Obviously.
The North Bank pontificates. Yeah, exactly right.
Instapod.
Okay, right. We're still recording, so I think we need to end this. We need to end this now. Right. Thanks for the chat. Good luck on Sunday, Steph. Getting there and staying safe.
Bring it on.
Speaking from experience, and we'll catch up again on Sunday evening. And thanks everyone for listening. So cheerio, guys. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.
The North Bank, an Arsenal podcast. Subscribe, rate and review on your app and find us on Twitter, Instagram and TikTok at NorthBankPod. Email hello@thenorthbankafc.com and check out our website, thenorthbankafc.com. Produced by The Podcast Company. We should try it with you walking away from the ground, depending on the result. Get you to sort of find
trying to get bloody signal. That'll be the other thing. I'm not going to be walking away from the stadium going, yeah, what a victory. Absolutely brilliant, everyone. Yeah, great.
It'll be the last thing you do.
No, exactly. It'll be the last thing I do. Yeah, right.
Within a police cordon, obviously.
Yeah, right.
Surrounded by horses being jostled by like some frothy-mouthed horse.
Steph, is that you?
No.